Hollywood has lied to you. Forget the shining armor, the majestic castles, and the romantic feasts. If you were actually transported back to the Middle Ages, you wouldn't be worried about dragons or sword fights. You'd be terrified of going to the bathroom. Why? Because toilet paper didn't exist in Europe, and what they used instead was so unsanitary, so dangerous and downright horrifying that it literally wiped out millions of people. In fact, there was one specific job in the British royal court that was so powerful, men would betray, backstab, and kill to get it. And its primary duty was wiping the king's bare bottom. We are going to reveal the shocking identity of the Groom of the Stool in a few minutes. But first, you need to understand the absolute nightmare of the peasant's toilet. If you're watching this while sitting on the toilet, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button right now, because this video will make you worship your role of two-ply forever. Let's dive into the disgusting truth of how medieval people actually wiped. Medieval mess. We have to look at what they lost. The ancient Romans were actually pretty civilized. They had public latrines with flowing water underneath to carry the waste away. But their wiping method, it was called the tersorium, a sponge attached to a stick, soaked in salt water or vinegar. Sounds okay? Sure, until you realize that one sponge was shared by everyone in the public bathroom. You wipe, rinse it in a bucket of murky vinegar, and hand it to the stranger sitting next to you. When the Roman Empire collapsed, so did their plumbing. Europe plunged into the Dark Ages, and hygiene went straight down the drain. For the 90% of the population who were peasants, the bathroom was wherever you happened to be standing. A bush, a hole in the ground, or a bucket in the corner of your one-room hut. But what did they wipe with? Mother Nature's toilet paper. Depending on the season, peasants grabbed whatever was closest. In the summer, large leaves, handfuls of grass, or moss. If you were lucky, you found some smooth river stones. If you lived near the coast, you used seashells. Yes, seashells. Imagine the scraping. In the autumn, they used dried corn cobs. And in the freezing medieval winter, you guessed it, handfuls of snow. But here's the terrifying reality. Grabbing random leaves off the ground meant you were highly likely to wipe yourself with poisonous plants, insect-infested moss, or foliage covered in animal waste. Microcuts and brutal infections were a daily reality. A simple trip to the bushes could result in a fatal infection. Now, you might be thinking, well, the rich nobles in their grand castles definitely had it better, right? Wrong. Welcome to the garderobe. Visual. Inside a freezing dark stone room with a wooden bench featuring a hole. Castles were built for defense, not comfort. The garderobe was essentially a tiny room built into the outer wall of the castle, suspended high in the air. You sat on a wooden plank with a hole in it, and your waist would drop dozens of feet straight down into the castle moat. That's right. That romantic moat surrounding the castle wasn't filled with crystal clear water. It was an open sewer of human excrement. And wiping? The nobles used pieces of old rags, wool, or hemp. Better than a seashell. But these rags were often thrown down the garderobe or washed and reused. But someone had to clean that moat when it got too full. Enter the absolute worst job in human history, the gong farmer. These men were only allowed to work at night, shoveling tons of human waste out of the moats and cesspits, carting it away to be used as fertilizer. It was a deadly profession. Gong farmers frequently suffocated from the toxic methane gases or tragically drowned in the muck. Now, you might be thinking, well, the rich nobles in their grand castles definitely had it better, right? Wrong. Welcome to the garderobe. But what if you were the king, the ultimate ruler? Surely the king wiped himself with the finest silk? Actually, the king didn't wipe himself at all. Closing the open loop. Remember that highly coveted job I mentioned earlier? Welcome to the world of the Groom of the Stool. Created during the reign of King Henry VIII, the Groom of the Stool was the most intimate servant of the king. His job was to bring the king his portable, velvet-cushioned toilet, the close stool, monitor the king's bowel movements for health reasons, and yes, wipe the royal backside using soft linen, water, and expensive oils. It sounds humiliating, but it was the most powerful position in the country. Why? Because the groom had guaranteed private, uninterrupted time with the king every single day. While the king was on the toilet, the groom could whisper in his ear, influence national policies, and ruin the careers of rival lords. Knights and nobles literally fought for the privilege of wiping the king's bottom because it was the ultimate key to political power. But while Europe was drowning in its own filth, the rest of the world was living in the future. By the 6th century, the Chinese had already invented actual paper-based toilet paper. By the 14th century, the Ming Dynasty was mass-producing millions of sheets of soft, perfumed toilet paper, specifically for the imperial family. Meanwhile, the Islamic world had strict religious guidelines regarding hygiene. The Quran dictates washing with flowing water after using the toilet. They used a lota, a small water vessel, and their left hand to wash, followed by rigorous hand washing. It was basically a medieval bidet system, far superior and infinitely cleaner than the European leaf and rag method. Europe's refusal to adopt better hygiene practices had apocalyptic consequences. The streets of major cities like London and Paris were literally flowing with human waste. People would empty their chamber pots straight out the window onto the streets below. This environment was a paradise for rats, fleas, and bacteria. The horrific hygiene standards directly contributed to the rapid spread of cholera, dysentery, and the most devastating pandemic in human history, the Black Death, which wiped out up to 50% of Europe's population. It wasn't until 1857, just over 160 years ago, that an American named Joseph Gaiety finally invented the first commercially available toilet paper. He was so proud of it that his name was printed on every single sheet. But even then, it took decades for people to accept it. They preferred using the pages of the Sears Roebuck catalog. So, the next time you sit on your comfortable porcelain throne and reach for that soft, multi-ply toilet paper, take a moment to be grateful. You are enjoying a luxury that medieval kings, queens, and knights couldn't even dream of. What is the weirdest historical fact you've ever heard? Let me know in the comments below. And if you survived this disgusting journey through history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more crazy historical truths. See you in the next video.